Next edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, joined by Ali Moreno, Craig Burley and Stevie Nicol. Gav Marcotti will be with us shortly as well. A little later on in the programme, we'll look at Spurs' victory against Borussia Dortmund, but we start at the Santiago Bernabeu. Ajax beating Real Madrid by 4-1. It could have been a lot more for that, in all truth be told. Ajax, so many chances. By far the superior side. Real Madrid, a mess from start to finish. To the defending champions out of the Champions League. And this, of course, a team that went into this match having won their last 3 Champions League tournaments. No side has ever done that in the history of the competition, but they are out at the round of 16 stage. It's the first time in 8 years that they haven't made it to the semi-finals. There's absolutely no question that Ajax deserve to go through here.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I saw a competitive, to an extent, Ajax. I mean, they certainly were in the first leg, but I didn't see this against an experienced and full strength, really, Real Madrid side. So, in fact, I would say it's one of the best performances I've seen at the Bernabeu for quite a while. And I know they were abysmal. Yeah. However, from Ajax's side, that was one of the best performances and one of the best performances from an individual. And there was lots of them, but Tadic was a guy who, at the end, couldn't get in the Southampton side for whatever reason, and has just taken to that field like, you know, Messi's played a couple of games there recently and hasn't played his best. Tadic completely outshone what Messi has done the last couple of games. That's how good he was in this game tonight.
This is a massive shock, isn't it? Yes,
well,
yes.
The scoreline is.
Yes, listen, the way the Real Madrid were playing all season, there's not a side that hasn't gone to the Bernabeu all year and not played well and looked as though they might actually win a game. Listen, in the context of the Champions League, Ajax winning 4-1 in Bernabeu is a shock, yes. But really, the way they've been playing, I mean, they're an absolute shambles. Yeah. You know, it suits. Ajax going forward are fantastic. They love to play an open attacking game. That's what they're great at. So Real Madrid just say, on you go, we're going to be as open as you like, and if you're on your game, then you might make some chances. My goodness, this could have been 8-1. I mean, the chances in the first half in particular. So, yes, in the context of the Champions League, it's a shock. But you know what? This has been coming for so long.
But the thing is, over the years, Real Madrid have been shocking in La Liga and played poorly and got it together for the Champions League. And you thought this time they didn't really surely have to get it together that much because they were 2-1 up going into this game.
That's when you had a team. What we saw out there today, that's not a team. It's just a bunch of guys running around. They're disconnected, they're disorganized. This was a comprehensive, thorough backside whooping, what they took at the Santiago Bernabeu. This was no accident. It's not like Ajax somehow put a couple goals together and hung on. No. This was Ajax outplaying, destroying, and taking apart Real Madrid. And then what was even more surprising, because it's one thing Ajax showing up and say, okay, we're gonna play, and we're gonna match you up, and we're gonna play with intensity and with energy. But the fact that Real Madrid, there was none of that. No intensity, no energy, disconnected, stretch all over the place. People just kind of doing their own thing and not really having any sort of team performance or shape or plan or identity. Nothing. There was nothing about this Real Madrid team that said, you know what? If it gets difficult today, no worries, because we can respond. There was no response coming. They can still be playing out there, and there was no response coming. Real Madrid, embarrassing.
I don't know. I get the point that we've watched a lot of the Liga games this year where bottom half of the Liga teams have gone there and some have won and some have come away with probably less than what they should have. But I don't think there's many have gone there, as Ali said, whooped their backside and then go and sit in the dressing room and think, boy, we should have got 7. We should have got 7. But I tell you what, this club and this president and some of these players have got arrogance written all over them. You got a president who is arrogant enough to go out and kibosh the Spanish national team's World Cup with the whole Lopetegui incidents. Now, he wasn't not to blame either, but it was all part of one big sham. Then you've got one of the 2 greatest players of the generation leaving, and he's replaced by who? Thibaut Courtois. A goalkeeper who has to come in when you've got a very, very good goalkeeper already there in Keylor Navas, and you've got holes to plug in other positions. And then you've got the captain who has got the arrogance to think that Ajax are just going to be, bosh, I'll take my yellow card and I'll move to the next game, albeit since he's nonsense and that was double arrogance, he would have been suspended anyway. But that's how arrogant they have become. No respect for national teams, for coaches, for players, for officials, and for opposing teams. They just thought they could brainwash and whitewash everybody in front of them, and they got a big lesson tonight, I'm telling you.
Is it as simple as saying if Cristiano Ronaldo was still playing for Real Madrid, they'd be through?
No. I think unfortunately Santi Solari's got to carry a lot of the can as well. You know, we wondered about Zidane coming from the reserve team, but with all the big names, he managed to get them to actually play. He managed to get them to put that intensity in, particularly when they didn't have the ball.
Right.
Santi can't do that. I mean, Ali talked about the shape of the team. The back four was an absolute embarrassment. And you've got a World Cup winner in there in Varane, who you would expect at least to try and organise the guys beside him. And it's 4 experienced players.
Yeah.
Just a shambles, and I'm sorry, but for me, that's down to the manager. He has to, at the very least, get his team organised. He can't put the ball in the net, and he can't do anything when somebody just makes a bad mistake. But you have to be held accountable when your team is all over the place from start to finish.
Well, he doesn't have to worry about it for too much longer.
I know, that's a shame though, isn't it? Because he's a casualty of the shambles.
Yeah, but the truth of the matter is that nobody survives this. Not Santi Solari. No, nobody survives this. I mean, he might as well just go into his office and start packing, because Real Madrid, there is nowhere else to go other than say, you know, thanks but no thanks. And it's not just Santi Solari. This is a team and a club that has to do a complete overhaul. Yeah. They were hanging on with the idea that the core group of players that they had was going to be enough for them to compete. But what they looked like tonight was like a boxing world champion that is hanging on one too many fights. And today it came the knockout punch, and there was no coming back from it. Real Madrid, honestly, I thought after the Atletico Madrid game, I thought that there was going to be a different version of Real Madrid. This was ugly, and nothing about this tells you that this team is heading in the right direction.
This is like a scene from Saving Private Ryan.
Oh, yeah.
I'm telling you, you've got Lopetegui's gone, done for. You've got a guy, we know Santi Solari, and we're not giving anything, you know, we're not giving anybody any favours here. He's going to have to go. Yeah. But he's taken a decision that he thought, I've got a chance here. He steps up from the Castilla, where he's probably got a job for years. He can't go back there now. You've got Gareth Bale, who's absolutely broken. You've got Isco, who's not even in the squad half the time. And you've got Marcelo, he's gone as well. Yeah. I mean, it's a bloodbath.
But it's interesting, one name he did mention, and we've been critical of Gareth Bale and not having much form. Luka Modric is a Ballon d'Or winner.
Mm-hmm. He's the best player in the world, right?
Supposedly. You wouldn't have thought that. In fact, that this whole season.
Tells you all those voting.
But today kind of epitomised.
And again, you know, if the games are played on paper, then it's a different story. But, I mean, Casemiro, Kroos and Modric, that's a great middle three, isn't it?
It's a middle three that's won the Champions League.
Yes, on paper. But when they don't work and when they don't make good decisions, there's nothing else around there. So why? The forward line can't bail them out, because the forward line, in my opinion, is atrocious. Benzema should not be playing at Real Madrid. Vinicius is 18, as I said, and you got Vasquez. I mean, seriously. Are they going to bail you out when you make mistakes? And not only are they making mistakes at the back, they're atrocious. They could be losing 3 and 4 games at home every single time they step on the field. That's not acceptable. So, front, middle and back are absolutely awful. And Courtois has not made a save all year since he got there.
You mentioned it, Casemiro, Kroos, Modric. Experience. I mean, they've done everything in the game pretty much. Why does this happen? Why are they not performing at a level that you would expect them to?
I don't know about the exact numbers, but I know, I'm not bailing them out here, but Modric has played a heck of a lot of football. Right. And it does look as if to me, because he's not become a bad player overnight. Look, I don't think he was the best player in the world. I just think that was, some numpties going down a voting system. Yeah. But he has played a lot of football, a bit like Rakitic, Barcelona, that Croatian side played a lot. They just don't look as if they can get around the field anymore. It's way too easy in midfield. Ajax with some good young players in there, popping it around, Tadic dropping in the hole. When defenders don't come out to squeeze in and close that space down, teams are just popping it around them. And Chris and Modric can pass the ball for fun, but they're not getting around the field anymore. And there's only one way out of this for Real Madrid, and that's spend. Yeah. I know we're going to talk about Tottenham in a bit, but, you know, Harry Kane, that's the kind of player, right? They're going to have to start going after, getting rid of the Benzemas, getting rid of the Bales, getting rid of all these guys that are deemed not good enough for this team anymore, and they're going to have to go to Europe and the rest of the world, South America, and spend big on players like Harry Kane and other positions to get themselves back up.
To your point about that midfield and Casemiro and Kroos and Modric, and we just touched on Modric, right? The point of Toni Kroos, there were sequences today in which he dribbled the ball straight out of bounds. Yeah. A guy who's as clean as a ball as you would want anybody to be in the world. So then there is some personal responsibility there, but clearly there's a level of confidence that is gone. And it's very easy to lack that confidence when you know that you haven't been able to dominate teams in the midfield as you have in the past. Casemiro in particular, a guy that depends on intensity, on tackling, physicality. Today, Dusan Tadic is doing spinoramas around him and Casemiro's not even moving. So, again, maybe he's tired. Maybe we can give him that bailout. I'm not.
Right.
There is a point of competing here that did not happen from Real Madrid's perspective. At some point, when we've seen Casemiro at his best, somebody's doing spinoramas, he's at the very least taking a yellow card for it. That wasn't even happening today. They weren't even close to Ajax. Ajax seemed like they were playing with 20 people on the field and Real Madrid was playing with 5. It just, that's how mismatched this game was. It was all Ajax all the time. Real Madrid.
Hey, at least Toni Kroos never got bumped by Germany today.
Well, that's
like Müller, Hummels, and Boateng. So I mean, it's a good night for him. I tell you what, that Tadic performance was like the James Rodriguez performance at the World Cup for Colombia, where Real Madrid just went, how much? Yeah. I mean, I'm not suggesting he's going to Real Madrid, but he was a player that said, look at me, look at me, I can play on the big stage.
It was PlayStation.
Remember, it's a team game, by the way. You know, when you're playing as a centre back, you're always talking to the guy sat in front of you in the centre of the midfield, right? And he's always talking to you. If Tadic gets in behind the central midfield guy, the centre back's going to have a go at him for letting him do it, and vice versa. Right. So you have to play together, and you've got two centre backs today who were nowhere near anybody. Right. So Casemiro doesn't know whether to step up or step back. You know, you've got two occasions. Modric with a goal. He's behind the centre-backs. And then you've got Casemiro, who's having to make challenges as well. He's behind the centre-backs as well. So they can't do everything.
This is what happens when Sergio Ramos doesn't play, Stephen.
Well, if only there was somebody that could have controlled that. Oh, wait.
All right, let's welcome Gab Marcotti to the show. Gab, as we go to air, Santi Solari is still in charge of Real Madrid. He's a dead man walking, though, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, look, the rational thing to do would be to, if you can, you keep Santi Solari until the summer and you give yourself time to take a run at the manager who you think is right for next season. But we've seen Real Madrid not be rational. You know, what you guys were pointing out before about how this is a team that's getting older, it's not as if Real Madrid didn't realize this. That was their whole thing when they appointed Lopetegui. And, you know, they felt that they had Asensio and Isco and you know, then Ceballos and whatever else. And they brought in Vinicius and they thought they could manage that transition. The problem is, A, they couldn't manage the transition. And B, they moved away from it. Florentino Perez, if he was sitting next to you guys, he would tell you, and he were honest, he would tell you, look, I genuinely believe that Karim Benzema, you know, without Cristiano, could be a 30-goal-a-season scorer. I genuinely believe that Gareth Bale would live up to his price tag and his enormous wages as soon as Cristiano left, and he could be that kind of player. Instead, it hasn't worked out that way, and I think you guys rightly said, some of the blame goes on the players, some of the blame goes on Santi Solari, some of the blame simply goes on what's been a team that, you know, for the last 4 or 5 years really hasn't renewed itself, or when they tried to renew themselves, they went down the road and then quickly abandoned the project for whatever reason. And what you have now is a gigantic tire fire.
Is Jose Mourinho the man to put that out?
Oh, I don't think so. Of course, he's very quick to go out and say, well, you know, if you get called a second time, it means that they really want you. I mean, look, if Jose Mourinho comes back, it really is his last roll of the dice, I think, at a big club. If he comes back, he's going to want guarantees in terms of spending. I think he might want some guarantees in terms of personnel. I don't know how happy Sergio Ramos would be, who still wields a ton of influence there at the club, to see Mourinho rock up. That's what they need to decide. Do they want to go back to that type of manager where you will spend money, you will generally be reactive, and it's a question of whether, he can regain his mojo, and he won the Premier League not that long ago, or whether they try to be more progressive. But I think the issues run far deeper, and they go right to Florentino Perez and really some of the decisions that were made at director of football level, or more likely not made at director of football level, but made directly by Florentino himself.
A lot more on this game on extra time. Lots of questions about Real Madrid and their future. Be sure to check it out. Tottenham are through to the next round of the Champions League. Not a surprise, obviously, after winning the first leg 3-0 at Wembley. What maybe is a surprise that they went to Dortmund and won 1-0.
Yeah, that's a great result, obviously. We said yesterday, if they get the away goal, then it absolutely buries it. The concern that I had, and if I'd been a Tottenham fan, was a good early start from Dortmund, and it was.
Yeah.
I mean, it was one-way traffic. You had a great challenge from Vertonghen. You had some poor final delivery from Dortmund. Royce was in a great position. I think that was the Vertonghen challenge. Lloris had to make some saves, so it was a barrage after barrage, and for whatever reason, they had to withhold that, because if they didn't, then I think it might have crumbled a little bit. So it worked well for them in that sense. Once the game started to go on, I then didn't feel Dortmund were as much of a threat as they were in the first 25 or 30 minutes.
Then when Kane scored, all our focus went to Real Madrid pretty much. That was it.
I mean, it killed it early on in the second half, because the first half, as Craig said, was a barrage.
Yeah.
No question. Hugo Lloris is their man of the match. Kane's goal, yes, is hugely important, but his saves and his possession, and not just him, but the whole back four, that's why this tie looked in the end easy, but it was far from that. At half-time, if I was Pochettino, I'd be a worried man.
But it will be Kane who will get all the headlines for his goal. A great goal from someone who just keeps proving time and time again he is up there with the world's best.
He is, and it's a conversation that we were having in the green room, was that if you were Real Madrid or Barcelona or some of the big clubs across Europe, you're thinking, man, what are we doing? Why are we wasting our time? Why are we not going after Harry Kane? And I know Spurs fans don't want to hear that, but the truth is that he continues to score goals at this sort of level, and the way that he's doing it. There was never a doubt when Harry Kane went through that he wasn't going to score. Of course he was going to score. He looks confident. He looks like he's been there 1,000 times before, and he's scored 1,000 goals before. And that's when you get that feeling as a player. On the other hand, Dortmund didn't have that feeling. No. You see? If they had Harry Kane on the other side, then we're talking a different story. Dortmund, they attacked, they did not score. In the case of Spurs, they attacked maybe once or twice. They score with Harry Kane. That's it. It's game over. See you guys later. Mature performance from Spurs. Yeah. Something that we haven't said in the past from them. It was today. It
was a big night for Pochettino, wasn't it? Because it could have crumbled with that onslaught early on. New stadiums are great, but they don't keep players. And Messi, Ronaldo apart, if we're talking about strikers in the world, he's the next in line. He's the best after those two at putting the ball in the back of the net, bar none. Well, they might throw Sergio Aguero in there, but he's an older player. And Spurs are going to have to win some trophies, or Harry Kane will not be a Spurs player for too much longer.
Well, they're still very much, of course, in the hunt to win this trophy. 7th favourites, according to the bookies now, to go and win the Champions League. Ajax have been trimmed somewhat, 25-1. Of course, no Real Madrid on the betting for the first time in years. It has been a dream start for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer since taking charge at Manchester United. Out of 16 matches, just that one loss. That, of course, at home against PSG. The second leg tomorrow, and it's the second leg that United go into pretty much with almost a reserve side. 7 players who featured in that first leg loss unavailable due to injury going into tomorrow's match, so no real surprise when you take a look at the odds. PSG, massive favourites with that 2-0 lead as well. 66-1 on to make it through to the quarter-finals. Meanwhile, the other game tomorrow, much closer. Roma favourites. Remember, they will take a 2-1 lead going into their clash in Portugal against Porto. Porto underdogs at 5-4. We'll be looking back at both of those games, of course, in great detail. Just a reminder, if you ever miss a show, you can download our daily podcast. If you listen to yesterday's podcast, I made a little error. Well, no, we were talking about the fact that the new rules have been introduced by IFAD, and we talked about the fact that the penalty taker couldn't then touch the ball after it was saved. That's nonsense.
Well, I wouldn't bother about that because ex-Premier League referees back in England were all saying the same thing.
Well, it was Peter Walton who brought it up to us in the first place.
And then Gallagher, bless him, I liked him, but he was talking about it on TV and radio, and it turns out it's not even true.
Hold on a second. So you apologise for something, but then you say it wasn't even your fault.
Well, I was collectively apologising for the show. The voice of the show.
Well, you get
the voice of the show.
Well, you get an ex-referee on you hope for better. But
the voice of the show.
Meanwhile, we've got Euro qualifiers taking place at the end of the month. Thomas Muller, Jerome Boateng, and Mr. Hummels will not be taking part.
What happened?
Germany have retired them.
Do they know that?
Well, they do now. Yogi Love says, thank you very much, but your international career is over.
Well, your international career, and it's a strange way of doing it, your international career is over whilst I'm still the manager.
Yes, that's very true.
Which is, if I was Muller, Boateng and Hummels and I still had, still wanted to play for my country, and I don't know if they do, I think that's what I would say. The other side of the coin is, he's one lucky manager still to be in the German job. Yeah. From that perspective after the World Cup.
I don't understand why he would announce that. Listen, it's fair play to him that he goes and actually goes out his way to actually personally speak to these three players.
Right.
Because they have been great for the country. But then it's up to them to decide what they do with the information. It's not up to him to turn around and start announcing it. That's complete nonsense.
No, I suppose he's going to get asked, why didn't you pull these players up? And he says, well...
It's not his place to announce that they're retired. It's the players' place. Not his.
But they're not retired. It's his choice.
Now they are.
He's the one who made the decision.
Let me spell this out. It's up to them
Did he not
to announce that they will not be playing for Germany under law, all right?
Well, they won't be playing against the Netherlands. That's their first game of Euro qualifier. CONCACAF Champions League action. Of course, a couple of matches tonight. Santos taking on New York, plus you've got Tigres against Houston. 4 really interesting ties over the next couple of weeks. Meanwhile, in Liga MX, Club America will be taking part in that game in Hamilton on Necaxa. That is on tonight. That match kicks off at 9:50 Eastern. Club America go all the way up to 4th in the table. After a heavy defeat last week, Derby bounced back today. A 2-1 victory now puts them level on points with Bristol City. Of course, 6th, very key in the championship. That is the final place for the playoffs. Meanwhile, front page of Marca, here lies a team which made history. Humiliating end of an unrepeatable era. Oh dear. I really miss working at Real Madrid TV on days like this. Imagine that.
How are they going to cover this up?
It will not be mentioned. It will be buried deep, deep down.
So this is like an epitaph.
This is it. And it is an epitaph. It is, going back to something we may have discussed in the past, it is an end of an era for Real Madrid.
People have been tweeting that. I mean, it's been a great story for them, but it's been a shambles at the end.
Complete and utter shambles.
And if you want to fix a shambles, bring Mourinho.
Oh.
Well, they said they're not a happy ship. He knows about happy ship.
Exactly.
Brilliant. We'll be back tomorrow for more of this. Until then, goodbye. To extra time, let's get to it, shall we?
Lots of questions?
Lots of questions.
Yes.
Lots of questions.
Any Real Madrid questions?
Lots of Real Madrid questions. Was Dan as worked up over the Madrid game as Stevie gets watching Liverpool?
No, he was not.
No.
You were almost as if you were accepting that something would go wrong in this game.
You know what he looked like? Like the rest of the Real Madrid team on the field. Yeah, so I'm like, you know what? We don't have it. That's it. It's all done.
That's it.
No, there was no...
If it was England, it'd be different.
Yeah, it's England.
Yeah.
There was no swear box.
No.
Like him for Liverpool. Ka-ching, 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 Lovren, ka-ching, Lovren. The worst I've seen you is in the World Cup.
Yeah, I really like it. I'm supporting
the England.
Yeah, that's when you get angry at me.
You got because you went into punch him.
Because you hate me.
Yeah.
I thought during that World Cup when England were playing, you were actually having a fit.
No, but
Because you'd be like, every time there was a chance, you'd be like,
but the thing is, you're the anomaly in all of this. Like you always say, I don't believe you, but like you support Venezuela, you support Liverpool, I support
I just watch
Hold on a
it. I just
second,
watch
no.
it. I'm an anomaly.
He was getting a little upset at Real Madrid today, wasn't he? Giving it Lars jumping on them for fun. That's not like him.
Who?
What? You.
Yeah, I've had enough.
You were giving it that. Yeah, we're going, Ajax.
Ajax were a great story. Thanks for dropping me in it. Well, I just like to. I can watch without getting upset.
Sure.
Unlike
Apart from
some-
today.
I didn't get upset. I thought Ajax
You
were
were
great.
angry. You were shouting at the telly. You were actually
Well,
shouting at
listen,
the screen.
do you know why? Because most of the day I've been in the gym shouting at a towel that's hanging over a thing
Poor towel.
and just staring at it.
Will Perez appoint Mourinho in order to punish the players for this performance?
Not only the players, we'd be punishing everybody in that organization. I think people forget what the last days of Mourinho looked
mess.
like at Real Madrid.
He didn't speak to the media for the last 6 months.
Okay, that's
Aitor
not good.
Karanka was wheeled out. Wasn't
That's
he,
not
for the
good.
time?
No, none of this stuff is. None of the Mourinho's end at Real Madrid was good. Going back to that, it may just be yet another step backwards.
I love how Jose Mourinho gets all these. When things were not going particularly well at Madrid or at Man United, the media get a bashing. Where's he been for the last
He's been working
couple of
for
months?
media.
He's been working for media companies.
Oh.
How do you think he'd get on here on extra time?
Well, I'm sure he'd be a lovely guy.
That'd be brilliant, wouldn't it?
But how can you go on?
How do you like your steak?
How can you be quoted as saying? How can you go on a network and say, "Well, this Real Madrid, they're just not a happy team, and it's clearly not a happy camp."
Yeah.
Coming from what he just created at Old Trafford over a period of whatever months it was, which was the unhappiest big team I think I've seen in many a year. It beggars belief.
You know the first thing you'd say to him? Why do you hate Arsene Wenger?
Why do you hate Paul
But
Pogba?
hey, but you couldn't have Shaka here in the set with Joseph because last time he was drooling all over him, rubbing his belly and all that. Come on,
Let's be honest, most people couldn't come on here because they couldn't hack it.
No.
Seriously, pundits and all sorts, they're not quick enough. They wouldn't last 10 seconds. Remember that David Ginola come on when he was running for FIFA? He'd stormed off and threw his mic down because it was all tosh and he got shown up for it.
Yeah.
They wouldn't like. They all think it's easy. Come on here, we'll show you.
How does this affect Ronaldo's legacy?
What's it got to do with Ronaldo?
Well, it kind of helps him, doesn't it?
All right.
No, I leave and you lose.
Well, he's not helping in Juventus either.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, that is.
I don't think it makes a jot of a difference. He's done what he did what he did, which was absolutely brilliant, and you'll never take that amount of years of consistent goal scoring away from either of those two, Messi and Ronaldo. So I don't really think it matters.
For Stevie, how was Real's defence? If Ramos played, would there have been any difference?
Listen, Real Madrid's defence all season has been an absolute shambles. So, whether he had played tonight or not, I don't think it would have made any difference whatsoever. I mean, it's actually astounding when you think of, okay, Ramos didn't play tonight, but when you think of what's been happening all season with their back four, and you've got Varane and Ramos, 2 World Cup winners, it really doesn't make a lot of sense.
It's actually irrelevant to wonder what might have been with Sergio Ramos because who took himself out of that position was Sergio Ramos himself. So there you go. See you later.
You've been shot.
Oh yeah, look at it. I saw those too.
Oh,
I saw those too.
In the
Cufflinks.
back.
Oh.
How'd you get those on? There's no way. Somebody's put them on for you. You couldn't get those big fat hands through them.
So were you. Hey, look at him, Bobby.
There's no way you fastened them and then put your hands through.
They're called Bobby Dazzlers.
No.
That's what they're
It's
called.
definitely a new shot. Guaranteed.
Due to VAR's decision against Madrid, is Florentino losing his touch? Thank goodness there wasn't VAR last few years.
Actually, I actually thought that was a correct decision.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Because one, it wasn't clear and obvious, and two, I actually don't think the whole ball was over. There only has to be a millimetre of the ball.
Was there not a part of you was watching the 46 replays thinking
Yes.
they're trying to figure out a way of giving us a goal?
Definitely. Yeah.
but they couldn't.
But they couldn't.
So the answer is yes, Florentino's lost his touch.
Right.
Yeah. No question. Just do 5 minutes on that fourth goal.
Tadic goal.
That was a free kick. That was a free kick. Courtois.
Nah.
Oh,
Did he mean it?
no.
Sure, he meant.
Yeah.
No.
Don't
Yeah.
think it matters. Tadic's goal was mustard. Brilliant.
Is Ajax really better than Madrid?
Oh, yes.
They just outplayed them for 2 games.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah. Would Craig mind breaking down the expected goals for Madrid and Ajax? Madrid's was higher, wasn't it, in this match? And also, what sort of ramifications this result will have on next year's Ballon d'Or?
Well, I don't want to get in too deep to expected goals here, but we may all have questioned it. They scored 4. Okay,
Yeah.
you could probably take you certainly can take the free kick out of it because that's definitely not expected. Was it the first one? He scored it from 5 yards or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another one, then they missed a host of chances. Then there was a one that went over the bar from an open goal.
Yeah.
Tap in,
late-
tap
An absolute tap in.
Yeah.
Second half with the Tadic cross. So, by my reckoning, there was at least 3 or 4 expected goals.
How do you think this affects Modric's chances of retaining the Ballon d'Or?
Well,
It's not good. It's not good.
Well, it's Modric and Neymar. They're going to have to get the finger up.
Away from the game, please make Stevie talk in his American Southern accent. It's absolutely brilliant. It is good, Stevie. Come on.
Well, see, I can't. When you chuck
Well,
it
tell
on,
us-
I can't do it when you chuck it on me.
Tell us you were away buying this new shirt
Yeah.
and how you get the
Yeah.
cufflinks.
Do you want to do the last question in your Southern American accent?
What is it?
Do Man United have any chance tomorrow?
I can't do it. I can't do it. All I'll say is no. How's that?
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah,
Are you here
that's it.
tomorrow?
I am.
Oh, that wasn't very southern.
I was hoping it would be a Southern going out. What are you doing tonight?
I'm shy.
What are you going to do tonight?
What we're doing tonight?
Yeah.
You've gone already.
Dinner and go to my bed.
Oh.
Like I do most
You let
nights.
us down.
How's that?
Normally you're quite the showman.
I don't know. It's not.
He's
got all shy.
It's clammed
I've
up.
gone all shy. Clammed up.
ESPN FC then back tomorrow.
Spotlight,
We'll be
spotlight.
reflecting on PSG United.
You choked. You choked.
Plus,
That's what happened.
It's Roma Porto as well.
Expected goal said you were going to do it.
A-E-I-O-U. There you go.